our first webinar open to other interested developers out there. Hi, Zoltan. So yeah, that's why I'm speaking in English. Many people have asked to do all these webinars in English, so here I am. Good. So let's get started. We only have 1 hour. Just a quick intro, just a side note. All this webinar is what we normally have been doing on our community for a while already, for more than 1 year. This is the first webinar after this pandemic. This is a community that most of us here are part of. Unfortunately, until now, we only ran events in Romanian. But if you are Romanian and you are watching this, please join us as we do more things in Romanian. The English webinar that I will do, open for everyone, will be announced on my social channels, the LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Okay, but let's get started. Come on. I won't even introduce me. I will just skip to the code and see how it feels and try to refactor this. Okay. So today we'll have Refactoring Kata. Refactoring Kata is an exercise that you do alone or with a buddy or in a group in a coding dojo to sharpen your skills, right? To grow your skills and to become better at coding in day-to-day tasks. There are 3 major types of coding katas. One of them is refactoring kata, as we have here today. That is special by the fact that it has a unit test already written, which you can rely on. That's amazing about this type of kata, that you can trust the tests. If the tests are green, then the code is okay. This is way different than the real life scenario in which you don't usually have extensive tests. So this particular kind of exercise of kata, the refactoring kata, starts up with tests already written. The second type of exercise of kata is the test-driven development kata, in which you start from scratch just by some specification, and then you grow the implementation together with the tests. Then the third type of refactoring exercise of coding kata is the most difficult one. It's called the legacy code kata, and it's actually starting with code with no tests, but awful code, and you have to write both tests and refactor the code. That's the third and most difficult one. Today here we have a refactoring kata, in which we have tests, and the tests, if you run them, are green, and when the tests are green, I am happy. Wait a second, just several moments. Sorry, Marta, I can't help you with that for right now, since we only have 1 hour. We can pass her the link. I will paste the link here. We can pass it the link. I can't do more than that for now, sorry. However, the recording of this will be available, so if you want to share with her the recording afterwards, you can do that. Okay, so another thing, this will get published at some point. So let's start. We have this Yatzi test. So we have the tests and we have the production code on the left-hand side. Technically speaking, I won't care so much at this stage about the tests. I will just focus on making this more easy to understand. The beautiful part of this is that some exercises don't even give you the specification. However, it's usually at the beginning, it's better that you look a bit over the specification. I pasted the specs at some point, but yeah. I will show it again now. There is basically the following game. There is a set of dices, right? 5 dices, yes. And you throw dices, and then you sum the number of the dots. And depending on what dice you got, you get some score. Now, the rules of computing the score based on the 5 dices are here laid out. The entire game, Yatzi, consists of you betting on a certain category and then throwing the dice. It's very interesting in reality, this game. But in our case, we don't need to implement the actual artificial intelligence to play the game, but we only need to implement the mechanism to score a given set of dices. So you are given 5 dices, and the game's the definition of the game states that there are always 5 dices. Okay. This is something interesting. There are always 5 dices. With this idea in mind, we come to the current implementation of the code. Now, typically when you run some code like this, the first thing you want to do normally is to do just an auto format everything. I should be creating a branch for you, really. Yatzi start. And I will push everything here, and I will try to highlight some techniques that you can use. So you are now on green. You have nothing to commit right now. I will just init branch. Now, when you start this branch, I mean, if you have nothing to commit from now on, you can do refactorings using the IntelliJ, ones that are very painful otherwise. But I don't know why this fails. Come on, just 1 second. I have something that I might be required to close. Let's try again. Init branch. Let's see, one more chance. Code analysis. What code analysis? HTML, really? Tick, tick. Okay. That's it. Good. So you are now on green on everything committed. When you are committed, you can reformat everything and then commit again. Why am I doing a commit so early? Because this is auto formatting. What's the point of that? If you ever look at the diff in the code, you will see that this particular diff changed basically all of the lines of the code. This is a bit annoying, and this is why I made a specific commit for that. If you ever review this change, you can safely skip it because it will only contain the auto format, zero risk, although the diff is very high, it's very, very large. However, this first method, the chance, given 5 dices, computes a score. Apparently, the score means to sum up everything. Now, you can very safely join the declaration and assignment using IntelliJ, and this will make without without thinking that much, really just Alt Enter, and there you go. This is the implementation, and arguably this might be a bit easier than the original one. That being said, I will run again the test, although the risk of breaking something if I use the IntelliJ, it's very, 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 very little, but I will still run it again. And I will focus on the next method, Yatzi. This is another rule. All of these are rules in the specification of this problem. Yatzi says that if you roll dice with the same number, the player scores 50 points. And this should be the trick of computing, of checking if all the 5 dices, by the way, are they 5 or are they, If you look at the test, you will see that the method call looks identical to the previous one. However, this is using varargs. One problem of varargs is that some careless developer might pass more than 5 numbers. That's why at all times when you have a fixed number of arguments, don't be smart. I mean, come on, don't do that. However, it's interesting that this is more compact than having 5 integers. So this has an advantage in the sense that you can for over all of those values, where here you should have taken them individually. So it has some advantages, but it's still worse because it can pass, someone evil or careless can pass too many arguments. So what I will do, actually, I will twist a bit the implementation and decide instead, because I like the fact of having a collection as a parameter, I will receive an int array. Why not? But this is not much different, right? Okay, it's pretty much the same thing, but one little change that you can do right now is to make an if here. If dice.length is greater than 5 yes, then throw illegal argument exception and say too many, or not even more greater than, different than 5. It has, I expect exactly 5 numbers. Okay, this is the specification of the problem. I can't get more than that. Although this particular rule is not reflected yet in the test, it's something that you want to build in your code, these little checks in your implementations, especially if you are building a framework at some point. Now, moving further, this is interesting, but in a sense, this fact is not very compiling, how to put it, it's not very compiler friendly, because if you type one more number here, you won't see anything failing during compilation. You will see it if you run it, but run it I mean, to see the problem only when I run it, it's a bit too late, in my opinion. I want to break things. I want the things to break as early as possible. That's why I will twist a bit all of this, and I will create. Surprisingly, I will create something. Why? Because a simple array is not convenient. The alternative. Let's a bit play with the alternatives. So alternative 1 is this. Alternative 2 is this. Alternative 3 would be int array. Not much different, but it will just force my clients to say new int array and values. It's just something ugly, evil you do to your callers. But essentially, the problem is still there because we can put one more 4 in this array as well, right? So this doesn't fix really the problem. The fourth option would be to switch to list of integers in a more objectual world, let's say. But the fifth, I think, option would be to create dice hand. I think this could work. We will twist the name later. I will create a new class, and they will wonder, why the heck are you doing that? Because I wanted a collection with exactly 5 elements, but I wanted a collection that doesn't allow me to put not less than 5, not more than 5. So what can I do instead? And it's a bit surprising that I could create a dice hand with an int array inside, which dice, I think dice is plural for if I'm not mistaken, private, int dice. And now becomes the fun part. Any variable that you ever create, I want you to make it private final from the start. So this is already something very, very powerful. Whatever you do, whatever variable you define in a class you create from now on, I want you to make it private final by default. Now, some frameworks like Hibernate or Jackson won't be very happy with that and will force you to make it non-final, but you should strive at all moments to make the variables final in your classes. Now, this forces you, of course, to take this as a parameter to the constructor. But if I do that, it's not much different than what was before. So the twist will be the following. Instead of having an int array, which comes with this danger, I will take here exactly the numbers, which is a bit unexpected, I would say. But the trick is that I'm constructing a class which forces me to pass exactly 5 dices via compilation checks. So here is actually a new integer, and I will bury the misery of creating an int array with exactly 5 variables here in the constructor of this little class. This is a very useful technique in large projects to create little classes that that cover some checks or that implement some functionality, or that, I mean, to disseminate the logic into multiple little classes that play well together. This is what I'm doing here. I'm creating a new dice. And also notice that I'm not taking integers to leave room for nulls here. No, I will take int. If this is the case, when someone will instantiate dice, then she will have a nice surprise. If she will ever want to pass a null as a parameter, then I will crash the compilation for him, because this doesn't compile. Accepting an integer will let the null in. It will break sometimes later, probably at this location. So I want to be as strict as possible in my APIs, which is the case here. Good. Now, this dice hand, on one side, it accepts the 5 numbers, and on the other side, I want to take advantage of being able to iterate over that. So one thing that I could do is to expose the array, and let's twist this. To make a getter for the dice, it will mean like that, okay? Get dice. Now, at this moment, you might be thinking, oh, nice, immutable class. No, this is not an immutable class. You can still change new dice of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you say get dice hand, sorry. Dice hand. And notice how, without even going further more than several methods, you already have a lot of ideas of refactoring. This is how it should feel, really. I need to do this in front of you, really. I will open the dictionary, because I am not native in English, and I'm not sure if dice means, yeah, in plural. And what is the singular? Die, I think. D-E-A, D-E, if I'm not mistaken. Let's test this. So don't be afraid or die. Oh, God.
Also in the first statement is that.
Die, yes, that. Let's see. I will type my die. Yes, very nice. So when you die, you throw a die. Okay, die is the singular, plural is dice. So remember that. Don't type dices. Okay, because IntelliJ will also make you. I mean, if you do that, IntelliJ I think will complain. This is not it's typo. But the problem is, don't be. The point is, don't be afraid of googling up the words. Get dice will pass in, will take out the array. So let's refactor now the test, which is something which many people don't find very appealing, but let's do that. Let's start with this one. Now, this I wanted to take a dice hand as a parameter. What this requires of me is to create here a new dice hand here. However, since this is a refactoring kata, you want to play with all the possible how to put it, techniques. And you will see soon something very interesting. But for now, let's keep it simple. And I will say actual. This is, again, if you look at this test, the tests aren't very clean at this moment. They aren't symmetric. This is checking one combination and the other two combinations are checked like that. So I will align to make it the same. Now, very often in tests, when you refactor the tests, it's very, very often that you can use Alt-J. In IntelliJ, it gives you multi-cursors and you can edit code in multiple places in one single shot. You can be a lot faster with that. You will see further. Now, this check here doesn't belong anymore here because it won't compile the code if you pass more or less than 5 arguments to the constructor here, which is one good thing. Now, I want to iterate over this. The simplest way that I can fix it now is dice.dice. But I'm having doubts at this moment. I'm not entirely sure if I want dice get dice. It's a bit redundant in a sense. One alternative that you can use is the following. If you ever want to do an enhanced for on a data structure that you own, then you need to remember that this needs to implement iterable of integer. If this is the case, you can do this. You need to implement the method named iterator, and I will do this by returning the. I think it works. Let's see, dice dot of an array as list. First of all, as list of dice, and then iterator. I think this could work almost. This is what? This is iter. It doesn't work like that. I should convert this. No. So array to as a list. Why doesn't it work really? Int array. How do you convert an array to a list? Interesting. Any ideas? List dot of. I don't have that yet. So arrays as a list, I would suppose, but it's not the case. New array list. Would you accept me to give it a array list? Array here probably. Let's see. No, still collection. Ugly. I can't convert this into a, but I can do this using Java 8, although it's a bit strange. But it goes like this: stream.of. Oh, come on. I hope it works. Dice dot. No. Let's see. Int stream. Int stream. Is it so? Is stream of dice dot. Does it work? Let's see. Yes. And I can box every int. This is one of the ugly things in Java. Unboxing and unboxing in collections gets you in trouble. Boxed now. The int stream of dice will get you back an int stream. Boxed get you a stream of integers. Now I can collect these to list. I can collect, and I can even take, yeah. You may not have known that, but the stream of integers, the stream interface has a method named iterator. So iterator is in the stream class, really, which is quite unexpected. But yeah, actually, a stream is a way of moving through a set of items without carrying the source of data. The same applies for iterator. The iterator is just a way of navigating data. This is a very hacky way of creating an iterator out of an array of ints. With this iterator in hand, I can type of an enhanced for. Okay, so dice hand plus iterable plus stream boxed dot iterator, which is a bit strange. I mean, but you have to realize that stream is nothing more than an iterator with more methods on it that you can chain nicely. Now, if you are talking about refactoring, many of you are not happy with this line because it's missing a bracket, right? A brace, actually. Now, the brace in IntelliJ you can add just by hitting Alt Enter Enter in the after the parentheses. Notice where I am. So the art of refactoring in IntelliJ consists in knowing where to put your cursor before you hit Alt Enter. Now, I'm iterating over those. Okay, good. What are these? This is an count. So what does this do really? Now let's understand. But I'm very tempted now to come back to the previous variant, to the previous method, and fix it to apply to the same class. Let's try to do that first. Now, I will show you now a trick, and pay attention. It's very interesting. A trick to convert this into this in a very let's say programmatic with the IntelliJ. First of all, new or Eclipse. Most of these refactorings works in IntelliJ and Eclipse. Visual Studio, ReSharper, yes. Visual Studio Code, some of them, just some of them. Now, I will instantiate here inside of me D1, D2, D3, D4, D6. Now, at this location, I will press Alt Enter, Enter. It will introduce a variable, put the spaces next to the commas, and terminate the statement with a semicolon. Click Enter. This is a dice hand, so knowing when to stop and when to press Alt Enter. Or, and now on this dice hand, this I can do it very nicely. Let's try it first. Dice hand. I have an iterator, yes, but do I have a stream method? No, I don't. It would be very convenient to have a stream method. Well, it's easy to do, right? You can just take this and extract this as a method, and I will name it stream. The technique that happens here in front of our eyes is called Encapsulated Collections. Okay, this is a simple exercise, but there are other cases in which, for example, a collection of addresses might deserve its own class. Perhaps those addresses have some rules to enforce. Perhaps in those addresses, you can't define two home addresses, right? So don't be afraid of creating, let's say, person addresses as a class, person addresses. Okay, because if this collection itself has some constraints, you can enforce these constraints in a class like that, which will contain the actual list of addresses, but also take care to validate various things. Now, if I have a stream method, it's private, public, stream method. Notice how I put the classes one next to the other. They won't remain like that. They won't remain like that. By typing public in front of them and Alt Enter, IntelliJ or Eclipse will offer to move it into a separate file in 1 second. So I know how to do it, but at this moment I will leave it just like that. I don't want to switch tabs with you today. Now, a quick check, and in the meantime, I would like to give you a poll, although it's right during the webinar, but I'm curious about the level of experience and all about over the other things. And also I want to check with you, how is the audio for you? If I have some backup connections if something goes wrong. Is it okay? The quality. Good, perfect. So I'll continue. Stream. What I want to do is just to sum up the elements of this in a single shot. So what I can do is take stream and then map to. No, technically, I would like to have a sum method on the stream, but stream, if it's a stream of cats, of stream of apples, you can sum up apples. However, you can sum up integers. So the first step would be to convert it back to an int stream as it was before. So I can do this using the reverse, which is map to int, taking an integer and converting to an int. I'm sorry about this function, this lambda, and then sum, because now this until here, this is an int stream, but this is a stream of integers. That's the trick. And this int stream has a sum because they are numbers. Return. Fixed. And now comes the fun part. This, my friends, I will extract this again as the same method chance refactor. Now I will extract it once more, and some of you will be asking, what the Why? Look why, because I will make it public again. And I will state that from now on in the Yatzi class, I don't want to have any method, on all the methods I want to take dice hand as a parameter. What will I do next? I will want to destroy this method. And everywhere whoever called this method, I wanted to now to call the new one. How to do this? Look carefully now in the tests. There are two methods calling chance with the old API. I took care of creating another method, an overload really, with the same name but different arguments. And I want this to remain the only method. So I want to kill this one. Now, first style is the Tarzan style. Let's kill this and then fix everywhere. But in real life scenarios, when you have dozens of references, you will be just navigating from class to class, looking where the errors are. And while you do that, your compilation is down, and IntelliJ might not refactor correctly the thing that you wanted to do. This is the most dramatic thing. IntelliJ will fail its refactorings if the compilation is not correct. So that's why I want to avoid at all moments stepping out of the of compilation success. So in short, I will just make this function shorter by inlining the variable here to here, Control-Alt-N. By the way, the plugin that pops here is called Presentation Assistant if you ever want to do a kata with your colleagues. But very interesting also to note, maybe more interesting, is to know that if you would have done that refactor inline, as I did the first years, long ago, when I did that, you may not have noticed this shortcut, but if you do that, if you took care of installing the key promoter X plugin, key promoter X plugin will try to teach you, my friend, you are using your mouse for nothing. You could have pressed Control-Alt-N, right? So this is what this plugin, if you install it, will force you to learn. We will teach you the shortcuts automatically. Now this chance here, I would then inline this method. Inlining a method, it means to copy the body of the method wherever the method was being used. So inline it. There you go. And look what happened. Everywhere where the old method was called, now the new one is being used instead. Everywhere. It could have been dozens of places. Now, dice hand stream map to int e I and then Yatzi, and then let's see this one. How can I check that all the dices have the same? I can't even understand what the heck happens here, really. Counts die minus 1 plus plus. Really? This is an int array. Ah, okay, I got it. This is an int array, and on the 0 position, because of that, it marks if he encountered the dice with the value 1. So it counts, that's it. It counts the number of times the dice was encountered. And then he just looks for some, he just goes to the count array. Let's see, this is a count indeed, and looks for one number, for one value for which there were 5 dices. All of the 5 had the same value. But my friends, I'm sure that all of you, I'm pretty sure, can find better ways of doing that. So one way is to compare that all the items are equal to the first one, right? The basic one. Let's try that. So directly dice.stream. Let's see. All match? Interesting, all match. All the numbers instead are equal to dice.getDice or get0. This is iterable. I could do iterator 0. Iterator next, like you do when you want to get the first element of a set. And this actually, it should work really. Equal because equal it works? No, because it's integer. IntelliJ is nice enough to help me with that because n is an integer, so is the value returned by the iterator. So you shouldn't compare integers with equal, although this will work for this example because the integers that you compare are under 127. The integers that you compare which are under 127 are equal between them, but you should, however, go for equals. The next thing is that if they all match, then you should return 50. Oh, okay, it's not quite done yet. This is just the condition for it. Oh, I could show you another way of writing if. And this is stupid if you ask me, but if expands backward, this is called the postfix expandation, return 50. It's also very interesting if you want to negate an expression. After you've finished the expression, you figure out it should have been negated, dot not. And it puts the not at the beginning, which is quite interesting, quite comforting. Good. I think it works like that. Yeah, it control space, it moves it to the beginning. Tricks and tips. Now, here, otherwise, I will return 0, as it was before. Cool. So this is just a check. If all match the first one, it could work like that, right? And it's quite, this, I'm not very happy with this one, really. If I were to leave it like that, function identity, thank you, someone, okay. Function identity, but I'm not sure it really works because it takes an int and gives back an integer. Function, is there such a thing? I'm not sure. I'm stepping on, no, leave it like that. There was one way to do it, really, but 4. No. I know what you're meaning, but let's see. No, it doesn't work because it's a different. Yeah. There was a way to do it, but I don't know it just now. Integer.intValue. That's it. I think that's it. Thank you. Oh my God, crowdsourcing. Int value, and then just type what you want, and IntelliJ knows for you. Good. Thank you. And then 50. Good. There are other ways. And if I were to take the first element, I would probably create a specific getter for that. I mean, something like public. Why not int get of int index, or yeah, which one you want, and then just return dice of index. Note how I mean, this one I don't want it to. I don't want to expose this anymore because this is the only method currently which makes my class here mutable. Let me prove you why is it mutable. Dice hand dot get dice of 1 equals. There you go. You got it. So in order to avoid the class to be mutable, I'm deeply in love with immutable classes. I will just delete this one. Simple as that. Right? There is no use for that right now. So there you go. Now, instead of this thing here, with the class final, leave me with the final. The final class, if you make it, this denotes distrust in your colleagues. I don't like making my classes final. No, I don't like it. You can sue me for that. Should we check the index? Good point. Good point. Should we check the index? Indeed, we should probably. But now let me just Yatzi with what? With all match, and then iterator next. This is the first. You have a non-compiling test. Oh my God! You're right. Get dice, which was not used really. I just type it there for thank you. I should have run the tests. I should have run the test before I committed. Of course, you silly. Okay, now ashamed. Made the test pass. Okay, this is the pass. This is how you should commit. Amend. Oh yeah, it should have been better, but I was stupid enough to already push things out. But anyway, dice stream all match. This is one way, but the next way will be get of 0. And as you said, this deserves a check here. Although the check, what would you do during the check? This is interesting. What should you do? If index is negative or is greater than blah, 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 what would you do? Throw an exception, right? The same thing will happen if you, I mean, it's still an exception if you forget that in Java, the arrays are 0-based, right? If you do that, you'll still get an exception. So you have to consider what's the benefit if you really want to do that. I just hope, my first question is, why does this pass? Okay, it fails. But the question is what you want to say. I hope you won't return a default -1. Good, I like it. Die, very nice unit. It's a bit better because yeah, it's just dice from this dice, the die number index, blah, blah, blah. But there you can do better. This is like accessors for nested collection. They can do better than that, meaning no, it's a bit mathematics here, but technically speaking, if you take all of the elements in the dice stream, collect to set, collect to set, you can just check if the size is 1. I will leave you a moment to check if this is true. If you collect to a set of values, then if you only get one value at the end, it means that there was only one value in the initial collection. So this is a trick that you can use, but this is a more mathematics trick, let's say. Come on, wait a second, I'm hitting the wrong keys here. Okay, so I want to take this and leave both versions on in the code here. I will just comment this out. And then if, and just paste this one. Yeah, that's it. Now, this is the same thing, but it's a bit more hard for people to understand really very often. Right? It's a bit, what the heck, what? The set is 1, yeah, oh, it means that it's only one element. But it's still a way. By the way, there is a fourth option. Emmanuel says size times die of 0 for more maths. Oh my God, no, stop that. But the one other thing to do it, although yeah, comparable in all sense, is this. You don't even need to count anything. You just, I mean, you don't need to collect in any collection. You just go to them, distinct them. Yeah, under the hood, the distinct will still collect them in some collection to be able to detect the duplicates, but more ways. Or for contains 1. But let's focus on the next one. Ones. This says that I only have ones. Oh, that's easy. Well, given the dice class, all of them should be equal to what? To 1. Easy that. Stream. Oops. Stream. I'm doing something wrong. Yes, I'm not using the dice class. Okay, at this moment, probably it pays that you refactor all the classes to use the dice using the technique that I've showed. Let's see, new dice of int. Oh, I should show you one more thing. Okay, it might break your I mean, it will be a bit puzzling, but why not? This is a, based on what you said on the poll, you said that, I mean, many of you are over 3 years of experience. Some of you, 1/3 are over 7 years of experience. So this means that I can go hard on you. So this is what I will. I will do the following. A refactor, one of the most advanced refactorings in IntelliJ, introduce parameter object. I will use the existing class dice hand to collect all these parameters inside. Your eyes should be here when I press OK. Refactor. Oops. Let's see. 1D, 1D, 2D, 2D, 5. Interesting. Let's see what happens. Continue. Yeah, it kind of worked. But yeah, that doesn't have a getter. Interesting. The D1, I'm not able to access the fields, but it's okay. Look what happened, however, in the client side. The dice hand was introduced automatically with new. Everywhere, which is very good. Now, how do I check at the end that I only have ones? It's very, very easy. I can do ones. There are many ways of doing that. This Java 8 style is stream. Sorry, dice hand. Stream. And then all match. That n or dice equal to 1. Okay. This is one way of doing it with Java 8. And then sum plus plus sum plus plus sum plus plus. But what do I get? I get the sum of the numbers, right? So the sum of the numbers, I know how to do it. It's this, really. And I'm copy pasting code. Yes, you saw it. I'm copy pasting code. But I need to look a bit more careful because the sum is 0. I'm doing it wrong, right? It sums all the dices which are equal to 1. I was doing it wrong. I was doing it wrong. So I need to filter the dices. But you know what? Let me do the stupid thing first. Let me do it really. If all match, if I was about to say that if all match, then I need to return 5 because 5, 5, 5, 5, else 0. And it's very instructive in real life scenario to test your tests. I mean, just intentionally break the production code in a way to see if the tests catch this problem, and they did. Look, at some point it said that I expected a different thing here, right? 1, 1, 1. It should have been 1, not 0, like you said. So it's very interesting to do that. So Now, the test failed. You said what? No, not yet. If it were a collection, it might have worked, but not otherwise. Here, however, I have a bug, and the test caught the bug. It feels warm, isn't it, right? It feels very, very safe if you do that. So given that you have tests in place, it's a lot more comfortable to refactor. And the correct solution is the following. I should filter. So return dice. I should stream dice hand dot stream dot filter to be equal to 1. So n arrow n equal to 1. And then what comes afterwards, I need to sum. But to sum, I need first to map to int with the same stupid code. Or you found a better one. Now, by pressing Control-Shift-Space, IntelliJ suggests me all the possible static functions that I can use in this context. And among them is your solution. Or count, yes, count would work also. But if you do count, 2 comes for you, okay? And I need to sum the 2's. I mean, both would work really. But let's go with this one. Yeah, count times the number, times the die. But let's suppose there are many ways, many. As you see, a lot of solutions. We will just get take one and play it. Okay, good. This is it. Now, the second one, too. Now, this is quite interesting. It's pretty much the same thing, but first I need to introduce the parameter object. Introduce parameter object and the existing class dice hand. The trick here is that the number of the order of the parameters needs to be identical to the one in the constructor. In our case, it doesn't matter the order, but in other cases, in real life scenario, be careful here. Here need to be 2's, but it's very easy, right? Let's copy paste the code here and put two here. Brilliant, isn't it? Look how productive I am. But you should be ashamed at this moment, right? Ashamed, this is the word. Because this syntax is almost identical to the former one. It's so similar that even IntelliJ figures out it is duplicated, although it's not identical. Eclipse will fail to detect this case. But in IntelliJ will attempt to introduce a new parameter to the block that you extract. This is hardcore, folks. Pay attention. Count the dice. Interesting. Your notes suggest that box should have this. Yeah, we'll try that in a second. But first of all, let's see what this guy suggests. So first of all, he extracts now count dice. And now it asks me, let me undo a bit. This is a bit mind-blowing. When I first saw this, I fell off my chair. But what the heck was that? Sum values of the number that I give as a path. Let's see what happens now when I do refactor. Well, the first method that gets extracted, as you see here, is the sum values which was identical with that was the body in the 2's. But then IntelliJ figures out that if these 2 were passed as a parameter here, then the same function could have been used here with the parameter 1. This is what this dialog is all about. It suggests to twist a bit the signature in order to match more use cases. It's absolutely mind-blowing, really. Except we'll have a 2 here and then a 1 here. We have a suggestion here. We saw it. No. Please do that. Please don't stop suggesting. I can bear it. So this is a value. One of the suggestions that appeared was very interesting, and I will apply it in a second. But with this function in hand, I'm very happy to implement trees. Am I? So let me. So please interrupt me. That's the point. If you want to look at Google, you look at Google. I mean, on YouTube. But that's the point. Interaction. Dice hand. Don't mind me. Parameters going into functional stuff. Ooh. Parameters going into. You mean this one? Or what do you mean by the value? Interesting. But how else? How else would you do that? How could you otherwise do it? It's a bit weird, right? I mean, you have to. This is actually taken from the closure of this. Yeah, but come on. Really? You want me to do this? Some condition. In my opinion, this is too much, really. It's more purist. But Java, it's not the place to be so pure, in my opinion. Scala might be the place to do that, but in Java, it's okay like that. With the side note that if you want to reassign a value from the context in which you define the lambda, you will have problems. But yeah, in Java we are dirty, exactly. Unfortunately, yeah. Trees, dice hand, and this is where you do the same thing. What the heck? Some values, interesting. Some values, trees, and then comes the next one, which, oh my God, whoa. First of all, let's clean up a bit the code and let's commit, because I have a moment here. Commit, twos, trees, reuse, haha. What did I do? Parameterize extracted function. This was a bit blowing, what the heck was that? But then comes the Yatzi, and I would expect the for, so the order is not okay. Yes, it's like capturing, exactly like capturing. It's actually the closure. If you do that, the value parameter is somehow added to a fixed closure which Java creates when you define this predicate. Okay, but the closure is fixed. That's why you can't change the value afterward. It has to do with the Java memory model also. Fourth, I discussed this more in the Java 8 webinar workshop, but this is just playing around, right? Let's try some values. Return some values. Dice hand. But what are the parameters? Oh my God! Whoa! Hold on a second. Oh shit! Okay. It appears that force, at when he implemented force, the parameter, the author has suddenly become object-oriented and figured out that it's more correct to pass the parameters using the constructors. So, oh my God, this is a bit weird because you actually had to pass some data in some methods. You don't, I mean, why the others were static? Static is good enough, right? So in my case here, I would give up using the dice array, which was an array, by the way. Oh my God. Let's do it Tarzan style, okay, this time. Dice hand, I would expect this dice hand to enter here and this to be static, okay? Now, it will break, of course, but I want to prove how we can do changes in the Tarzan style, but more effective in a second. The implementation is clear already. Return count or some values of dice hand, comma, 4. But the question is, how do I change the tests, right? Now, by using, again, of course, Alt-J, and by carefully moving the cursor around, you can make sure that you call force here, and then you delete the, note how I do it, right? You have to be attentive what you do, because I don't need to instantiate nothing. Done. Done? Not done yet, almost done. I need to instantiate new dice hand of this in one more parenthesis at the end. Alt-J rules, really. Alt-J is one of the main reasons I switched from Eclipse to IntelliJ. Okay, so trees, where is force? Force, this should be later. 5s, 6s, oh my God. Of course, we expected those, right? So let's move these up and let's see if we can fix them in an elegant style. Let's be wild, right? This is 5s, interesting. We'll do the same thing. Sorry for doing plain text editing. This can be also interesting for many of you. Imagine using this in SQL scripts or JSON or whatever, right? 5s, I think it's correct. Now the next one is 6s. I mean Alt-J dot 6s. And you can, with Alt-Shift-J, you can come back and unselect the token that you selected. Okay, so do try it out. If there's something you should try out after this webinar, is this dice hand. Dice hand, and it's so trivial that for my case, I don't even need to look at the actual implementation, the current implementation. I will just return some values. Exactly. Probably I should have copy pasted in this case. Dice hand, comma 5. Control Shift Enter terminates the statement, and let's do that really, and put instead 6s, and put 6 here. Good. Now This is a good way of writing it. Nice, I like it. Let's move these methods next to the, they are already close to the others, which is good. The tests, should they run still? 5, static. Static. Let's run the tests and read the comments. Spanish Inquisition, what? Do it for all, then copy paste. Yes, somebody is working with dice. Yes, very good, Christian. Let's do that. Christian saw an opportunity of implementing more OOP. Typically, in these exercises, you will want to strive yourselves to do as much OOP as possible. The observation was that this method, some values, has to do only with the dice hand. If I were to be honest, all the functions have to do that I edited until now had to do with dice hand. So all of them could have moved to the dice hand, right? So that's why I won't start moving them now in dice hand. But if I wanted to move them, look at what I would do. I would just Control-Alt-Shift-2, convert to instance method. Pay attention, pay attention, right? I will need to do a commit first. 1s, 6s, done. 6s. Let's try to do this. What the suggestion? Convert to instance. And now I'm a bit puzzled. What instance? Do you want to move this method in the dice hand class by any chance? I mean, wow, what the heck was that? Let's see. There you go. You are now in the dice hand. And wherever the function was being called, it's now called from the dice hand. This is OOP design, my friends. This is good, especially if you see a bit of code highly reused. On any highly reused bit of logic, which is short enough, should go in some object, in an entity, in a value object, in a DTO somewhere. Put very, very nice. You know, just to prove this refactor, I will leave it in place, but I won't move all the others. Move static method to the class of one of its arguments as an instance method. Okay, fixes the so-called feature envy, one of the most interesting named feature envy code smell. All of this that we do now, I will explain one and a half week from now. I have my first webinar running one week on 6th July. It's a webinar on Teachable. Unfortunately, it's with a cost. But the thing is that I go 3.5 hours into these refactorings way deeper than here. Yatzi. But if you are experienced enough, you can get all the points here. A score pair, almost. Score pair, what the heck is that? A pair. What's a pair? Let's see the test first. A pair. Yatzi 2 pair means 3, 3. Okay, so this returns 16. Why the heck? 2 pair. Let's read the spec. We spent too much time reading the others. Unfortunately, we are left with little time. Pair means, let's see. So the 2 highest matching dices. Oh my God, 2 highest matching. What was that? 2 highest matching. How would I get that? Look what this guy does. First of all, he sums up the counts again, like he did previously. You remember? Counts. For example, in this array, there will be there will be value 2 on the position 1 in case there are 2 2s in my dices. This comes to here, and plus means there are, it counts, right? And then it goes downwards, or no, it goes upwards, but somehow downwards. Look, what the heck is that? Oh God. Let's see if IntelliJ helps me to switch a bit this. I mean, no, it doesn't. The problem is that also you, even though you start from 0 to 6, you literally go from 6 to 0 if you are careful enough. Look, 6 minus 80. First thing, add a brace. And then 6 minus 80, I will extract first as a variable. I. And then wonder. If I iterate from, by the way, what the heck is that? Why is it defined? There you go. Move declaration closer to usages. Okay, so you don't edit first code. You just click Alt Enter and then see if IntelliJ can do it for you. And then 80 from 0 to 6. If you go from 0 to 6, this is something. Can't I make it happen here also? 6 minus 80. 6. Why didn't it extract it? Let me undo a bit. I would have expected it to extract from both places. For some reason, it doesn't. But I can see there are two places, 6 minus 80. It's a bug. it's a bug. It's a feature. It's a bug. It's a bug in IntelliJ, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe we are missing something. But I would have expected it to take it out from here too, right? Let me try again. I can't believe my eyes. Let's see. How lucky can I be? Interesting. E. So, but since you don't change the value of AT between the two lines, it's E here, by all means, E. But now looking closer at this, if you iterate from 0 to 6 and then you do 6 minus, it's like iterating from 6 to 0. But I don't expect all of you are very, but with minus minus, are very comfortable with this change. That's why I would like to run my tests. This is quite dangerous, really, because you used your brain. But fortunately, I did not make anything wrong here. A very tricky change. One of those who, if you were to do such a change normally, I would have written tests before because this is quite dangerous. So it goes downwards from 6 to 0, and whenever he finds something which is greater than 2, multiplies by 2 the value. So, for example, in this case, the result should be 16. Is it correct? Interesting. Why 16? Why 2 pair? I think I'm doing it wrong. This is what I was looking into. 1 pair. So 6 is 12. True. But if I were to give one more 6 here, I expect it to return the same 12. Because even if you have 3 of 6, it only takes into account 2 of them, as you can see here. Okay, look how we will do, because I want to fit in 1 hour, technically. And because you also have things to do today. I think we will stop here, although it tears my heart to stop here, and we're just getting started. But since this is online, I'm sorry to just a super brief thing I want to show you to this, just who the heck am I? At the end, this is how I like to do it, at the end. Who the heck am I? But don't leave, because I will stay 15 more minutes, even if it's more than 1 hour. I will stay 15 more minutes to finish up more things in there, because I'm Victor, one of the 2 Java champions in Romania. I'm from 2 months already. I give up my job at IBM as the lead architect, and I'm now independent trainer and consultant. I'm basically an independent full. Then I spoke a lot of various conferences, mostly about clean code, but many other topics. I have a playlist on YouTube in which this recording will also get. I have a website and you can download interesting things from there. And I have this community that I told you about, Bucharest Software Craftsmanship on Meetup. When we do these kind of free webinars from now on, I think we will do them in English if I will gather feedback from you to tell me if it's okay to do it in English. Software craftsmanship, you might not have knew this term before. It's basically a set of principles, a set of practices, let's say. First of all, a code of ethics. I want to fight for following a set of guidelines of professionalism. Then the bug of the other is the bug of you as a team. There is no ownership. It shouldn't be a strict ownership on the code. All of you should work towards a common goal. I want you to practice, to do this kind of katas daily, if not weekly, if not possible daily, to practice on these exercises. Emily Bakke has a brilliant book on this topic, from which GitHub we also read the spec. I think I'm lost in among my, somewhere here. I think there was in the, okay, Emily, let me type her name. Emily, really brilliant girl. Emily Bakke, brilliant, absolutely. She has a book about full of this kind of exercises, and also a GitHub that you can clone with lots of repositories that you can practice on. I also have my own, but she's better. Continuous improvement. I wanted to continuously look for improvement opportunities. Okay, what do I do as well for a living? Teaching, training. A lot of developers, companies, many days, Spring, Hibernate, functional programming. Sorry for this commercial. Design patterns, demand-driven design, clean code, refactoring. This is a bit of application of refactoring workshop. Unit testing, test-driven development, performance, Eric's Java, Scala, website, follow me on this for more such webinars. And it's sharp. 1 minute passed. It's been 1 hour, but I won't stop. By the way, I also started teaching webinars on Teachable. You can enroll whoever you are, just come there and 3 hours, maybe I would dare to have 1 full day, but for now 3 hours webinars on topics that I normally teach in class for different companies. End of commercials. Publicitate. Am revenit. Let's continue with this exercise for 15 more minutes. I'm really, come on, let's do it. Pair, how would you implement it? So folks, in case you have meetings to catch, it's 1 hour past, right? Score pair, how would you do that? First of all, these counts, they really pay off, right? I would like to do these counts. So let's try to do this. First, suppose you would have a dice hand. Just suppose, right? We will then make it to pass it here, but suppose you had a dice hand. On dice hand stream, you can then what? You can collect the numbers there by grouping, collect, it's null, but anyway, grouping by, come on, grouping by what? By the very value that it's there. So by the very dice value, I will group them, taking care that after I group them into subsets, I need to count how many of them are in each group. This will effectively give me a map between the dice value and the number of items in each cluster, right? It will first break up this set of items into pieces and then count how many trees were there. Okay, there were 2 here. How many 1 was there? There was 1. How many 5 were there? Let's suppose there were 3. Okay, 3, 5. So this is what collect grouping by counting does. If you are curious about collectors, Venkat has a brilliant talk about collectors at one DevOps at one moment. I think last year, if I'm not mistaken. DevOps Belgium. Okay, so this gets you back. Yeah, there should be something there. And the collect will get you back a variable, which is this counts, actually. This is the counts, but not index-based as an array, but instead it's a map between value and number. Now, I want the dice hand to come as a parameter, but I want actually to finish it. How would you do it, really? You would like to do what? On this map that you get, let me first compact a bit this, because any method from GDK should be statically import for shorter code. But now counts, I would like what? Let's take the entry set and then filter those, let's first stream them, and then filter those entries to keep only those entries which have at the value at least 2. So, and given an entry, the entries should have the value at least 2. This corresponds to this. And then from this stream of entries, no matter how weird this should sound, I need to do what? To map first and extract from each entry the key, which is actually the die which was counted. Okay, and then from this, take the maximum key, maximum. But I don't have a max by a simple max on this case, but if you were to do map to integer, then you will have a max, because now this, until now, becomes a, sorry, Control-Alt-Shift-P, I'm pressing now. Something is wrong. Control-P, no, Control-Shift-P. Control-Shift-P gives you the type between here. Grouping by plus counting equals frequency. There is such a thing that I did not know about, frequency. What do you mean? Frequency. I did not know about that. Ooh, nice. Frequency, interesting. But what does this give me? The same thing, probably? Whoa, nice suggestion. Should try this out. Let's just expand it. Control space twice, suggest static import. I'll put for you to do, try it out. Try this. Okay. And then max will give me back the maximum die for which there are at least 2 values. Good. Now, max die. Ah, it's an optional int. Oh, nice. What the heck should I do in case there is no die over there? Well, let's see what I do with this max die. Let's do the mistake that we do at times, get as int, and then times 2. This is what I should return. But what do I return in case I don't find any die for which I have at least 2 occurrences? Then I return 0. So one simple trick to work around is or else 0, because 0 times 2 equals 0 again. You might agree with that, but you as well might not agree with that. This is a bit of mathematics tricks, but if you want to be more explicit, like you would be in normal enterprise code, probably you would like to do something like maybe an if get as int, max die, get as int. If get as int is present, where are you? Not get as int. If max die is present, then you get. And I mean, you would explicitly define the branches. Maybe, who knows? If you are more into maths, probably you would go with the previous, the solution of putting here the else and then just times 2. But this is a bit more explicit. And in normal enterprise, no, yeah, I know, Emmanuel, I know. I'm not a big fan of if present either, but it does have a meaning here. Do you disagree? Okay, if you disagree, click here. It doesn't. No, sometimes it did. Okay, if you disagree and if you took the effort of writing it in the console, then in the chat, let's do the change. I will make it an int and then just times 2, and that's it. But the problem that I have with this code now is that max die has the value 0, or there is no die with the value 0 over there. You know, max die or else 0. Interesting. So to put this or else at the end, yeah, that's better. But not how concerned we are about where to put, I mean, about semantics, right? Here. That's better, because max die might be, yeah, that's better. But not there, because otherwise the variable would be a lie. It's not a die. 0 is not the value for a die. Good, that's it. Now, we only need to do this to, actually, you know what? Since we have little time left, the trick of creating the parameters. Okay, come on, let's do it. Dice hand. Okay. Continue. There you go, and then dice hand, dice hand, dice hand. Good. Next, 2 pairs. Oh my God, what the heck is that? Well, I need to do the spec first. 2 pairs. Where is the spec of? I lost the spec. I lost my spec. Whoever finds it, please return it to the. Where the heck is my spec? My God. Okay, let's try directly. Yatzi. Okay, I will go to the link. Sorry. Where are you? This. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You're faster, Raluca. There you go. And 2 pairs. 2 pairs means that if there are 2 pairs of dices, I mean, for example, 1, 1, and then 3, 3, then you do 1 plus 1, and then 3 plus 3. Perfect. And in case there is this case, this is an interesting case because you won't sum more than 2 of the 2s. You see, you ignore one of them. Okay, so let's go here and see how we do this. Well, it will be convenient to use the same thing as before, right? The same. Let's first copy paste it, because this is how good ideas appear, by copy pasting first. Dice hand here, 5 more minutes and you're done. Equal null. Now, I don't want to finish it. And as a side note, it's not mandatory that you finish the exercise. You can just pause it there and then resume your work if you do it yourself, and return tomorrow and dig some more, or you can start it over and so on. Don't strive to finish it in 1 hour. Counts equals. How do I do this? Well, I need to find. Look, the code here. Oh my God. It does what? It does a 4 and then freaking. I don't know what the heck is that. It's like, whoa! I mean, whoa! What's that? Again, then, so 1, 1, 2, 2. How do I get that? Well, I need to filter. Okay, filter. The highest 2 pairs. That's it, Emmanuel. So the highest 2 pairs. Let's start with the same style. I need again to stream them, the entries, to filter them to have at least 2. We are good until now. And now, given that we only have 5 dices, how many pairs how many items can maximum be here? It can be only 2. I mean, you can't have 3 pairs with 5 dice. So the trick is that here we have at most 2 items left, right? So what can you do? Let's think. We could collect them to a list and then work from there. Let's try first, because honestly, yeah, many people work collect to list. Why don't you suggest? Because it's an int. I only need to do this, and then I can type collect to list. Okay, what should you turn for? No, and good question. Good question, Zoltan. I think you caught me on that. Good question. It's not even tested. So what do you do? There is no test for that yet. 2 pair. Let's write a test first to see how the code, and I will copy paste your suggestion identical. So this is interesting. What should this return? Well, I would expect, who knows? And this is what's called to build up the tests while you have the implementation. It's called characterization tests, or in some concepts it's called acceptance testing. You just write the test case, run it, and see what happens, and afterwards you just check it. 0. This is not what I expected for sure. 0, really? What the heck? Why? Because it appears that it doesn't fit in the 2 pair section. What do you do in this case? There are 2 options. You call the business, or you take for granted the current implementation. Yeah, that's a 4 of a kind. But the point here is that it appears that there aren't 2 pairs. It doesn't consider this to be 2 pairs. So technically, practically, you can see the current implementation considers this to be just 1 single pair. And if you apply the rule for 2 pair, it gives you nothing back. So I will stick with the current implementation until I get back the answer from the business. So the point is that we do need to check that there are 2 items in this list that we create here. So dice 2 or more. So if dice 2 or more size is not equal to 2, then return 0. I mean, no, nothing. You don't get nothing. But if there is something inside, else. Okay. Now, some of you won't put the else here, but we'll continue on the main line. And let's do that for now. Dice 2 or more. Dot. I will need to do what? To sum them. So 3 plus 5 times 2. This is what the formula that I will apply, right? It's the same as multiplying each of them. I will sum them first. Stream. Map to dice 2 or more. I will do this. Map to int to the same control shift space int value, and then sum times 2. Return this, and you say dice 2 or more. Come on, that's picky. You're very picky. Good. Let's see what happens now. It should behave the same. Yes, 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 perfect. Very good, Zoltan. That's the point. I forgot to do that. Good that you mentioned. Once you see a case, interesting case, and you add an interesting case, you leave it there, of course, but you burn down in the expectation the former behavior of the code. And now we see at null pointer at some. But yeah, of course it's a null pointer because I forgot to introduce the parameter object dice hand. There you go, continue, and done here, run, and there you go. You also see some duplication happening here. It might be the case. Yeah, let's see 2 pair. 16, 0, we have a difference. And the problem happens at the line here. It did not work, so yeah, we have a failure. Let's see, so 3, 3, 5, 4, 5, it returned 0. It did not match anything. Now, where is the implementation? Here. The size should be identical equals to 2. Right. How do you do this now? How do you debug it, really? Do you do a breakpoint? If you know me, then you know what I'm going to say. Never breakpoint. What you do is if test failed, I'd want to run first this test to see what happens. And then I will add log debugs here to print out in the console the things that I wanted to inspect on my stack. I don't have I don't have Lombok. How can I leave it on Lombok? Sorry, but I have a live template that I created very carefully. But I don't have. Come on, really? I don't have this one. How can I edit in a very simple style? Add Maven dependency logger. And now, God have mercy on our. This one. Yeah. 3? Nah, not that brave. Let's see what happens. This, first of all, Maven import. And then import class after everything is done. No, not yet. Yeah, done. Good. And now further on, log debug. And I will maybe even put info at the beginning because by default, what am I doing wrong? Why don't I have a log? It's log. Do you know what's wrong? Log info. And let me log here. What do I need to know? This one is the most interesting, or even this one. Let's see. Map equals. In static what? I'm in an instance. I can access it. Why not? It wasn't static. What the heck? Private static final log. What's wrong with that? In the wrong class? What do you mean? Sorry. Offside. You know. This. There you go. And then we run again the test. Only this test to see we've gone past 15 minutes. Sorry, we'll finish up in 1 minute. I want to fix this bug and we'll continue. Yeah, bugs, but where is the log? No log. Don't tell me that I have to put log. Come on, really? A second. Alt insert, add dependency, log back. Log back core, it's good enough for me. Not that brave. And then Maven import and hope it will really do something at some point. I should have done system out, right? So let's do this to unblock. So out. And see what happens here. Map, and then I want just to fix this, and we're done. Why should it be bad? No, I don't think that's bad, really. Why do you think it's bad? It should be two pairs. We're in 2 pair section. 2 pair. I did more harm than good. It fails. It returns 0 from here. I need to move this further on here. That in 2 pairs should not be 0. Hey, my God! If it's different than 0, oops. Now, if you use your brain, this is what you get: bugs. If you use IntelliJ, you won't get that many bugs. Okay, and we are all green back. Thank you. Now, if this were in log info, after I finished the fixing the bug, what I do when I leave, I put this down to trace. I don't delete this, but I do this in order for the next developer who comes to this code to debug another thing to be easy, just to lower the level to trace, run it again entirely, and sees all the things that I saw today when I debugged the code. That being said, my friends, to do for you.